The campaign against Avowed reveals the bigotry that fuels the anti-woke. Okie dokie then. Well, I guess the game is up, chaps, as Kotaku is riding to the rescue of Avowed. I have a sneaking suspicion this is going to be one of those articles in which they will go, "This isn't happening," only to then 5 seconds later prove that yes, it is indeed happening, but it's a good thing, actually. But, let's not get ahead of ourselves, because just recently, in fact, I was proven incorrect by a similar article. The Dragon Age Veilguard is the friend that is too woke article, where I, upon reading that, thought like, okay, their argument is undoubtedly going to be that the game isn't woke enough. No, it was actually a remarkable moment of introspection from an otherwise mainstream gaming media source about how gaming has indeed gotten too woke to survive, even in the current year. So, who knows? Perhaps I am actually in the wrong on this one. Let's entertain the possibility and check in on Kotaku, shall we? Granted, if Kotaku debunks me, I might just retire right then and there. In its crusade against Obsidian's action RPG, the anti-DEI mob has given the game away. We have let the mask slip, chat. In 2024, there has rarely been a game announced without a small but tiresomely vocal group of grifters attempting to whip up controversy for their social media followers. Well, I don't know about that. The majority of games are probably mobile games, which, if anything, we cheer on because they have anime waifus in them. No matter what the title, and no matter who the developer, every announcement is meticulously scrutinized for any faint sign of a thought crime. Kotaku, you're going to be lecturing other people on thought crimes, are you? Alright then. An element that could be construed by these charlatans as proof of wokeness, something they can decry as a DEI initiative, and then take this speculative notion is spun out to followers as the latest attempt to take away your games. The latest target is Avowed, but in picking on it, those running the rift have rather showed their hand. But Kotaku, this is the game in which the art director, which I covered in the video, literally went out and said, hey, if you are an artist that is black or brown, etc., then please tell me that's your skin color so I can artificially prioritize you over other applicants. Please help me replace you. I mean, we're not really reading much into this. There isn't a whole lot of a creative, interpretive spin that we can give this. We literally just read the guy's tweet, look into the camera, and go, yeah, looks pretty woke to me. And racist, by that matter. There really isn't a whole lot of a spin here, frankly. Like any online scam of note, it is so brazen that it's only more depressing that it works so well. Have you ever considered that perhaps your worldview is so blinkered that you are literally incapable of seeing the opposition's point in this case? Seeing as, to us, it appears as blazingly obvious as the sun descending upon a clear sky day. Clear sky day? Well, clear enough, we can government work. Whereas to you, it's apparently utterly trivial. As much as it might infuriate you that someone you know would fall for a cold caller telling them they need to send gift certificates to fix an issue with their Windows operating system, to be fair, that is actually kind of funny. I was called by an Indian gentleman one day who told me that he was from Windows and that my PC was acting up. I did enjoy that. It should equally upset you that these legions of people fall for the same woke gaming grift over and over again. But with Avowed, the forthcoming Obsidian role-playing game set in the worlds of Pillared Eternity, the con is so brazenly laid bare. Yes, of course, it still works, but it's so much easier to see how. Okay, color me intrigued. What exactly is the grift? The shtick works like this. A game is announced, and because it's 2024, the current year argument, wow, we've got thought crimes and current year. This guy's been launching a lot of our videos. That game may not exclusively focus on white dudes saving the world for the lady in a bikini, or a sexy lady playing dress-up in various bikinis while saving the world. Hold on there. So, we can't have men saving the world because that's sexist, and we can't have women saving the world because they might be attractive. What can we have exactly? Oh, hold on. I know exactly what we can have. It's this. We can have some women, but they can't be particularly attractive. That's very important. And we can have some men, but they've got to be weird skin colors or black. Again, I return to my previous insinuation that this article would be, it's not happening, and then, well, actually it is happening because we've forbidden all of the things that you actually like, but don't worry about that. I mean, some still do. This is an industry that creates games that feature a broad range of characters. The grifters recognize this as a useful target for their grift. Literally. This is an industry that does the thing they're accusing the industry of doing. Well, shit, you've got us cold there. Making claims that the game is artificially altered from what should have been, based on a desire to be perceived as progressive. Well, no, we're not making that argument. We're making the argument that the studio making Avowed is woke as shit, and they hire actual literal racists. There was no original vision to corrupt here. Their vision was always to be racist. They then use this to convince large numbers of disaffected young men the world is trying to take away from their last vestige of entertainment. Well, we don't need to try very hard, do we? The only place left where they feel represented and prioritized. The only hope is to rise up and fight what's rightfully theirs, and if they give you some money to the gift grifter for a project that never sees daylight. Oh, and too fair enough. Yeah, no, I feel as if we're talking about Grumps here, and that is a legitimate critique to level against him at this point, but it's not quite universal. I like this too, though. Yes, trying to take away from their last vestige of entertainment, the only place left where they feel represented and prioritized. Holy shit. Aren't you the ones who keep telling us how important representation is? How important it is that we prioritize certain groups in entertainment because otherwise they feel left out and they won't be able to participate? And yet here you are yet again going, yeah, we have pretty much excluded you entirely from this, and we are indeed trying to eradicate you completely. We are trying to take away the last vestige of entertainment, the only place left where you feel prioritized and represented. But that's a good thing. Again, the more and more I think about, the more and more shit like this I see, oh god, Jonathan Haidt is dead on. We simply do not view morality in the same way. To these people, a guy saying, please, black and brown artists, help me replace myself with you, is not only virtuous, it is the correct and accurate thing to do. Whereas the opposite, going, hey, I was here first, can I get to stay, is a vile assertion of bigotry. Our realms of reality have diverged so drastically that we literally do not perceive each other's morality anymore. Except with Avowed, those behind the grift forgot to include a couple of vital stages. They forgot to develop the spurious claims in which to condemn the project, failing to identify something that had been artificially included or an element that had been censored in the name of wokeness. And in doing so, they made incredibly clear what it is that is really at the bottom of all of this. Bigotry. You know what? That's a point. You know what? Yeah, no. That's a point right there. See, well, it's a point in the straw man that he's constructed. The straw man is that the argument of, me and mine, are that something has been artificially altered to be woke or DEI. And this is not the case with Avowed. As I just mentioned a moment or two ago, I am fully convinced that the people working on Avowed are just actual unironic, unrepentant racists. I don't think they're forcing wokeism into this. I don't think they're forcing DEI into this. I believe they are 100% ideologically committed to this thought line of politics and will push it into their product. So, yeah, if we assume that we were trying to make the argument that something had been changed for political reasons, that is correct. But, seeing a screenshot like this, I fear they didn't go woke. I fear they probably were already. Around the time of Gamescom this year, the usual people started loudly condemning Avowed as the next piece of woke mind-various adult DEI. Why? What sin had it committed? Had a mission leaked in which you're forced to help a gay polycule adopt a cat-identifying trans child at an abortion clinic? Fair enough. It was this image. Avowed, pre-order today. And yes, that image does have all of the usual hallmarks, doesn't it? So, See, I was quite excited for Avowed, despite the fact that Obsidian Entertainment hasn't really delivered a whole lot of anything good for quite some time now, but this image popped up and it was posted around the internet, with a lot of people having the same reaction. So, what do you have it? Can we zoom in on this a little bit? No, it's gonna artifact, isn't it? But we'll do our level best. So, you've got 4 characters. You've got a blue character, which was one of the first people from their universe. You've got a black chick. You've got a black dwarf who at least has a beard, thank heavens. And you've got this little white pink-haired cat thing, whoever the shit this is. It's been a while since I played Pillars of Eternity. So, immediately, flag number 1. There is no white man present. This tends to be an indicator that somebody really doesn't like white men, and when paired with the art director going, I really don't like white men, it sort of kind of reinforces the idea, doesn't it? Secondly, the female characters, enormous jaw. Although, I mean, this one, she's not terrible, she's alright. She's certainly no attractive video game character, but at least she's not studiously hideous. The little cat thing is a bit more... I don't know. I feel like this is intended to appeal more to a certain leftist demographic that might be liking them young, shall we say, rather than my group of gamers, but details. And then you have the black dwarf with a bow. Now, again, Pillars of Eternity universe, of course, have different rules for their dwarves, so that doesn't necessarily mean anything, but it's a dwarf with a bow. That alone kind of tips me off a little bit, like, this is a weird thing to me. And he's also got a weird feathered, like, elven-looking kind of weaponish bow, and, of course, the skin colors, too. It is what is not being focused on, even more so as what is being focused on. And as myself and a lot of people pointed out at the time, this doesn't necessarily mean anything definite, but it is a red flag. And the fact that we now have, articles going, it's totally not a red flag, but we are trying to take away the last vestiges of young entertainment, I feel as if the flag is being waved rather aggressively in my face. See it? The intolerable act of evil? No? Goodness me, don't tell me the woke mindverse has got to you too. There's no what. There you go. That's right. This violently racist piece of marketing includes a black woman, a white elf-like woman. Elf? Oh. A blue man and an ambiguous race dwarf. Ambiguous? Very well then. How more clearly could the developers be saying that it wants the game to be exclusively played during a drag queen story hour at your local library? I think you watched a little bit too much of the more ridiculous side of the internet. See, the thing with hilarious exaggerations is that they do have to be somewhat founded in reality. You need to take reality and then blow it up, explode it, rather than simply going, hey, this utterly unrelated thing. Haha. Now, it's one of the few left-wing humors that I sort of kind of understand, the lol so random. I quite enjoyed that when I was 12, but it's somewhat worn on me as I've grown older and grayer. Honestly, to even notice that the fact feels kind of weird. I'm a white guy living in a country that's 90% white. I don't know about that. In an area of a country that's 95% white. I don't know about that either. And as such, I'm fairly used to seeing people who look like me everywhere I go. The thought didn't cross my inherently racist mind. I'm the last person who can believe that ghastly I don't even see race bullshit. People like to say instead of thinking, yet, I saw some people in the fantasy world. Fantasy game people. I'll give them this though. I noticed one of them had blue skin. That stood out. Fucking typical DEI inclusion initiative. If I see a blue person flying a plane, I'm getting off there and then, etc. So, as a person who lives in a 90% white country, which I doubt even exists anymore, you do see race. You see race everywhere you go. You are not one of those colorblind racists who don't register race, but you don't care about race. How do we square this particular circle? How do we see race whilst not seeing race? How do we detect... Oh, that's it. Of course. It's because these are the accepted races. Derp, of course. You don't see race, as in, you see white people as bad, and you see everything that isn't white as good. That is your variant of colorblindness, you racist. And in this alone, the entire scam was shown for what it really is, just unabashed racism, homophobia, and misogyny. How do we know that they're gay? That's it, it's so boring, but it's all it is. Racism, homophobia, and misogyny are profitable. Tell me about it, brother. You do seem to be doing fairly decent for yourself, writing for a major game stream media. Help me. Publication. So they focused, but don't worry, they'll prove how not racist they are by pointing to the Fury's ongoing, although mostly forgotten, campaign as Ubisoft for including a black man in Assassin's Creed game set in Japan. That is pretty weird, I admit. The first Avowed fuss came and went in the summer, the game permanently marked to be condemned when I wrote about my excellent hour with the game on Kotaku. In August, the Protestant expert Bilius complained about how the game was going to promote a woke agenda based on, that picture, and then everyone forgot they were so outraged about that and moved on to the next topic. So they didn't obsess about it, it was simply just a thing that happened and they went, yep, this looks like it could be woke, but I'm going to wait and see. How unreasonable of them. But oh boy, what a bigger gift could the grifters have received when November's Avowed previews came around. Because when a bunch of games journalists, boo hiss indeed, were given access to the opening few hours of the game, it was revealed that the game's character's creator had the option for they-them pronouns. Sound the klaxons. And that they were forbidden to show the character created too, which considering the recent kerfuffle with Dragon Age is not exactly a wonderful indicator of quality. I was one of those SJWs. Well, thank you for revealing yourself, I guess. I spent 6 hours playing the game and had an absolutely brilliant time with it. And that despite there not being a single mission in which I had to paint rainbow flags on the walls of a church, or any plot lines in which I helped a blue-haired immigrant gain access to free healthcare. Surprising how those are the examples you bring up. Instead, I was fighting spiders and stuff. Because this is the third game set in the Pillars Return to canon, which is a world blah 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 blah, Avowed is a good game, I don't care about your shell. It's the exact same playbook described above, of taking something incredibly minor entirely out of context. The guys laughing at those who think the game is negative towards white people, given that's not even vaguely something that the game's about. Well, it doesn't have to be about it. It simply see, here's the thing. Let me explain this. Let's say that there is a movie, for example, that has humans fighting aliens, right? And in this movie about humans fighting aliens, there is a masculine liberal government for the humans that only wage a defensive war with a volunteer personnel only against an aggressive alien species. One would think quite obviously that in such a universe everyone would side with the humans. Except, of course, we covered a video just a couple days ago where the leftists identified with the literal insects because they had been taught to identify against the pretty people by Nazi propaganda. That's the thing. We have, in this day and age, a group of people so literally, thoroughly, unironically brainwashed as to be able to see the masculine liberalism as fascism, and this completely rots their brain. They produce inferior entertainment when their brain is thus destroyed. And so when we start seeing symptoms of it and deliberate admissions, English, of it on social media, we go, yeah, this is probably going to be an awful game, because history seems to indicate that every game made by people with this conviction is awful, therefore we're going to avoid it. And hey, perhaps even he's speaking the truth. Perhaps there is nothing to indicate wokeness in the game. Perhaps it'll actually be a good third-person game, in which case it will be the exception, that confirms the rule. Everything has an exception. The framing as something serious it shouldn't be acceptable for any company in the game industry to be racist and sexist against white guys, wrote Musk. Do you disagree with that? And then acting entirely on that reframed imaginary version, the claim that the game is already doomed to fail based on fictional enormity. Well, by and large, when we call something is likely to fail, we often get it right. Hot off the back of their success in destroying another RPG, Dragon Age the Veiled God, we're admitting that it was destroyed now, are we? Because a couple of weeks ago you were hailing it as a massive success, and yet now we're admitting that it was a failure? Well, thank you. You're a bit slow to the party, but I appreciate it nevertheless. Which utterly flopped thanks to the effort with a miserable 1 million sales in the first 2 weeks. I don't even think they got 1 million sales in the first 2 weeks, did they? Or did they? They refer back to the extraordinary win as proof that Avowed is doomed to the same terrible fate. We're winning, they endlessly message their gullible followers, and then that's true too. Well, yeah, literally yesterday, in fact, we covered an article about how BioWare themselves were complaining about failing sales for Dragon Age the Veilguard. I mean, you can claim your version of reality all you want, but if even the developers themselves argue against it, it seems to be somewhat misleading. It's just boring racism, homophobia, and misogyny. It is boring racism, homophobia, and misogyny. This is the same accusations you've been leveling against us for 10 years now. It barely worked back then. At this point, it's become a virtue signal in the opposite direction. Whenever you mention it, we double down in opposing you. That's the entire grift. You play the venal nature of the disaffected, you feed latent bigotry and resentment, and you drop in a way to give you money. Cha-ching. But a quiet cha-ching. Because only so effective, such that you have exhausting maintain the loop until eventually someone with a louder voice usurps you. How exactly is Kotaku doing right now? I do love the projection there, because this is what Kotaku has been doing for the last 10 years, going, you're racist, homophobic, and sexist. Now, if you would please click on our links. We've got 4 links here. If you would please read our review, we've got some more links. If you would please just... Please give us traffic. We're about to be laid off again. Please. We're going to be sold to a Chinese sweat farm. Louder voices, eh? Avowed reveals this for what it truly is. The game hasn't replaced anyone with a minority represented character. That is, to be fair, correct. It hasn't changed the length of a schoolgirl's dress. It hasn't removed the reference to something unpleasant that got through in a version from the 1990s. None of the usual massive crimes. It just had a picture of some people, an entirely ignorable tick box on the character creator scheme, and a sarcastic art director who thinks Toolbag Elon Musk is a toolbag. Sarcastic. They're going after it too because more than anything else, it hasn't made any special efforts to center a straight white man in its marketing. Because when it's all stripped away, that's all this is about. Pure bigotry. Indeed. Right, well, I'm happy to see that at least Kotaku is retaining their firm anti-anything that is profitable or good in the world position. Because frankly, I would have been a little bit upset if I needed to start reading Kotaku articles with the fear that I might misunderstand them right off the bat. That, if more than anything, would have shaken my worldview to the core. The day Kotaku makes a valid point without blaming it on racism, that is the day I unironically retire and just start making kitten videos like everybody else does. But, Avowed, is it going to be absolute garbage? You know what? I'm not convinced. I don't think it's going to be great simply because Obsidian Entertainment's track record is rather poor at this point in time, and the fact that they have deliberately forced politics into previous games, stated that they were going to do so in the Outer Worlds game, and did so quite ham-fistedly as well. The fact that they're also calling it a shorter experience for people who don't have time for RPGs also makes me rather worried, and the fact that it's put in the Pillars of Oblivion, universe, which honestly is not that interesting of a universe. It's more of a, hey, these are fantasy things, clash them together and call it unique sort of universe. It never really managed to grab me over much, frankly. It was a decent classical RPG when it was first released, but even then it was alright. Certainly not amazing, certainly not groundbreaking. And now that they have... the article does make a point in that nothing appears to have been replaced here. This seems to have simply been an incredibly woke game from day one, rather than one that merely turned woke shortly and slowly. We shall wait and see, but I'm not particularly optimistic. I feel like if I can keep this good of a read on Kotaku, I'll probably maintain a decent read on the video games as well. Until next time, I've been Arch. Thank you all very much for watching, and I hope to see you all again soon. Till then, have a good day.